Hey everyone, today's lesson is 3.6, explaining Australia's skin cancer rate, and we're also going to switch gears halfway through and go into lesson 4.1. We're going to do things a little bit differently today, so we'll stop halfway through and let you finish this lesson, and then we will go into lesson 4.1 because they're a little different. So let's jump in and get started. All right, so we're going to look at this warm-up. Here are the results of interactions with UV light. Remember in the last lesson, you each were divided up into three different groups, and you tested these different substances out, the ozone, sulfuric acid, and carbon dioxide around Australia. And I want to know which one did what. So if you're looking through, if we have the choices down here, reflects, transmits, and absorbs, which one would the ozone be? And which one would the sulfuric acid be? And which one would carbon dioxide be? Now these were pretty simple, so hopefully everybody got them all right. Remember our chapter 3 question, why does Australia get more UV light than other parts of the world? Well, if you remember, Australia gets more UV light than Brazil, even though the two countries get the same amount of sunlight. And you can see this in the visual map below. In this lesson, you will compare the amounts of different materials in the atmosphere above each country to see if this explains why Australia gets more UV light than Brazil. So in the last lesson, we investigated sulfuric acid, carbon dioxide, and the ozone. So let's study a table showing the amounts of these three materials in the atmosphere over Brazil and Australia. Here is the chart, and I want you to look at it. We can see that the ozone, Brazil has more than Australia. Sulfuric acid, Brazil and Australia have the same amount. And then carbon dioxide, Brazil and Australia have the same amount as well. So think about that as we're going forward. What is different about the atmosphere above Brazil and above Australia? Does this difference help explain why Australia gets more UV light than Brazil? And if so, how? Think about those questions for a little bit, because you're going to come back to those with your partner when you are doing the lesson. It would not be enough for us to say the atmosphere is different above Australia than above Brazil, so that must be the reason there is more skin cancer in Australia. We need to show that one difference causes the other, not just that one difference is correlated with the other. We need to show a cause and effect relationship here. So you'll use this modeling tool to compare what happens to UV light as it travels through the atmosphere above Australia and Brazil to the Earth's surface. And those of you that are in the digital version, you will have a copy of this given to you. So the key shows that different shapes represent the three different materials we investigated. So here's the key for sulfuric acid, carbon dioxide, and the ozone. Make sure you're looking at these and using these in your model. The arrows represent UV light waves. You should extend each light wave in a straight line. If the UV light hits the material, you should show what happens if it transmits, reflects, or what am I thinking? Transmits, reflects, or absorbs. My goodness, it's late. Anyway, so you'll show that from the key from before, what we learned in our warm-up. So remember that you can show light transmitting through a material, being reflected off of the material, and being absorbed by a material, and I'll project this diagram as you work so you can refer to it. It's also in your Amplify interface. Here are the results of interactions with UV light. This is the one that I will project. We'll come back to this in just a bit. So when you're done, I want you to discuss your models with your partner and explain what they show. Annotate your models as you share and clarify any important ideas that you may have left out. This image here depicts the ozone layer above Earth. We have evidence that there is less ozone in the atmosphere above Australia, and this is called ozone depletion. So during the 1980s and 1990s, the amount of ozone in the atmosphere decreased worldwide. In Australia, it decreased even more quickly than in other parts of the world. So you're going for activity 3, you're going to prepare to write. Remember, the AHA has asked us to help people in Australia understand why the skin cancer rate in their country is so high. So we've already considered these three claims, and we rejected claim 1, and we have evidence to support both claim 2 and claim 3. So your reasoning is when you explain how evidence supports a claim. Scientists use reasoning to make clear and convincing arguments, and you'll want to do that in your statements. The reasoning tool is the graphic organizer that helps you show your reasoning. You'll use it to help you explain how the evidence supports claim 2 or claim 3. Both of these claims are supported by the evidence. When this happens, scientists often revise or combine their claims. All right, going on. Congratulations on your work. You've completed your investigation into why Australia's skin cancer rate is so high. In Chapter 4, you will apply what you've learned about how light interacts with materials to investigate a new question. So, Lesson 4.1, we're actually going to analyze evidence now. And we're going to use this with evidence cards that you are going to have to cut out of your packet. So you used what you learned about light to explain why Australia's skin cancer rate is so high. Now you will use this knowledge to answer a new question. So here's our letter from a new doctor, Dr. Ellen Siva. She's the head marine biologist. The subject is feeding habits of crabs. So our friends at the AHA recommended you to us. We hope that you can use your expertise on light interactions to answer a new question. Our team of marine biologists is studying the feeding habits of a species of crab found near the ocean floor. The crab's main food source is plankton. We know that not much light makes it down to the ocean floor, so we are curious. Can the crabs see the plankton they eat near the ocean floor? We need to find out what the crabs can see so we can understand how important the crab's other senses might be in finding food. I'm sending evidence from our research lab. Good luck. Chapter 4 question that we're going to research: can the crabs see the plankton they eat near the ocean floor? So as you see from the visuals, some colors of the visible light transmit farther down through the ocean water than others, and that affects how objects appear in the ocean. So you can see that yellow and green go all the way to the ocean floor. Orange is almost there, blue is halfway, indigo is not quite halfway, violet and red are very high up in the ocean. So these organisms reflect red light, and at the surface they would look red, but deeper in the water they appear black. That's because red light doesn't transmit very far through the ocean water. You'll use information about how far different types of light travel in the ocean to figure out whether the crabs can eat the plankton they eat, and if so, what color the plankton would appear. So here are the claims. We're going to consider these two claims. If you determine that the plankton is visible to the crabs, you will also make a claim about what color the plankton appear. So claim 1, yes, the crabs can see the plankton, and the plankton appear blank, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Or claim 2, no, the crabs can't see the plankton. In our science seminar sequence, in Lesson 1, you're going to analyze evidence to determine which claim answers the question. In Lesson 2, you're going to participate in a science seminar, which will come up next class period, to share your ideas about the evidence and argue about whether you think the crabs can see the plankton or not. And then Lesson 3, we're going to write an argument about the claim you support using evidence and reasoning. So in the activity 3 today, you're going to sort evidence. You each have a set of evidence cards in your packet that you will need to cut out. So we'll stop here in just a minute and cut out the cards. You'll read and annotate them to gather evidence about whether the crabs can see the plankton. With your partner, I want you to sort the evidence cards based on which claim you think each one supports. And you'll each put the science seminar question at the top of your desk and the two claims right below the question side by side, either claim 1 or claim 2. You will discuss each card and annotate to keep track of your thinking, and then you'll place it under the claim you feel it supports or refutes. You will need to keep the cards organized for the next lesson, so please clip the evidence cards together when you are finished with them, with the claims you decide they support or refute. And the must-dos for today, as you can see, sorry it's so small, are right here. Meant to make it bigger. Lesson 3.6, activities 2 through 4, lesson 4.1, activities 2 through 4, and mastery check number 8. Great job, you guys, today. Start now with your evidence cards and your partner, and when you guys are finished with the lesson, come on over and take the mastery check number 8.